City Field?
No,
Can you reach out to them?
somebody get back to us tomorrow to call us at the office. So let's see.
Okay.
Dr. Stern's not going to be able to join us, so she has sent some information. So I'm just going to forward it to the whole board.
Okay. Hi, Martha. Oh, wow. Okay. If it asks you to sign in, you can just click sign in. It doesn't have it's not password protected. It doesn't have a password. Okay, hold on a moment. Let me just get out of the Zoom. Okay, hold on. I might be able to do it for you. Hold on.
Okay. We don't hear you. Unmute yourself, Mark.
Try again.
That's it.
Now?
We hear you now. Yes, we do.
Hello, Kevin. Hello, Chadna.
Hello, Mark.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm well, I think.
Well, at least you think.
It's proof of his existence, Chadna. I think, therefore I am. And I'm trying to remember who said it. I forgot who it was. Kevin, who said that?
I don't know.
It was a philosopher. I think, therefore I am.
Descartes?
It wasn't Descartes. You know what? In 3 hours, it'll pop into my head. You know that.
Yeah, in the middle of the night, can wake you up.
I hate that. I hate it. Something about what proof do you have that you are? And the answer was, I think, therefore I am.
Cogito ergo sum.
Ah, and who said that?
I'm looking. French philosopher Rene Descartes.
It was Descartes. I didn't think it was Descartes. It was
Thank
Descartes.
you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
How are you guys? Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Good evening.
So Kevin, it was good to see you last night at the things, and Jim also. But the police thing was very nice, I think. We met Fortune, Inspector Fortune.
Right.
It's a good name.
Was fortunate.
No, Inspector Fortune. He's in the borough south. He's in charge, among other things, of the neighborhood police efforts, the CNOs.
He works out of Patrol Borough South,
Yes,
and he's a full inspector.
I believe so. He's been on precinct command, so you know.
I was going to say, the name sounds familiar to me. I think he was in the 103.
Yes, he was.
Met him somewhere. I don't remember where, but I think it was Archie Spignet's funeral. I think I met him.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Good evening, Jake. Yeah?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Marie?
Hold on a moment. I'm trying to help Martha sign in. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Why don't you take the tray?
I'm okay.
No, we'll come.
I'll take Jota. Jota, can you hear me?
Yes, Jesse.
Okay, any decision on that, what I called you about earlier today?
Martha said if you guys agree to it, it's okay to be sent out.
Under the auspices of the entire board?
Yeah. If the committee approved it as a whole.
Actually, I think that, okay.
Go on, Jesse. Be cryptic.
Neely Rodzik asked us to support, for a letter of support about something she called the Furious Act bill to try and curb the drivers who driving like crazy down the streets. So she got together with the police department and there were a series of recommendations that the Transportation Committee approved, and she wanted a letter of authorization from the entire board. If you want, I have it written down. I can tell you exactly what she wanted. I don't know if I want to waste everybody's time.
No, I assume she wants more tickets,
No, well, what she wants
which
to
is
do
better
is
enforcement.
stop them from speeding is what she wants, and stop with the noise. So she wants more enforcement, and they're talking about closing down some of the parking lots that are open in the evening after stores are closed.
Yes, it was discussed last night with Inspector Fortune. He's going to check into it based on a complaint from Fresh Meadows.
That's where races gather prior to racing.
You know
in
what?
the parking lots.
Maybe actually read it to the few of you that are there. I'll take 1 minute before we start, okay?
Yeah.
So you'll hear what she says. Assemblywoman Neely Rodzik reduced the Furious Act bill. The bill would amend the vehicle traffic law to allow New York City to operate speed cameras at any time in a school speed zone, which the city has identified as an area of special concern for illegal speed racing. Letter of support from local community boards requested. See below recommendations after post-drag racing meeting. 1, NYPD will check with its legal team enforcing trespassing laws for specific parking lots where races congregate. Special signage would have to be installed. 2, Federal Realty will look into the possibility of installing electric power fence that would close off Fresh Meadows Shopping Center after a certain time. 3, NYPD will provide monthly statistics for a number of summonses issued for drag racing, tinted windows, speeding, and muffler noise to elected officials Neely Rodzik and Barry Grudenchik. All future drag racing complaints should be reported to 911 if it fails under reckless endangerment, or to 311 if it's not a dangerous situation. Email should be sent to Officer Trotter at the precinct and to Neely Rodzik and Barry Grudenchik. Lastly, NYPD is working on setting up more checkpoints to catch violators. This is from the Transportation Committee. A letter of support of the Furious Act was approved by Transportation Committee. This letter should be sent under the auspices of CB number 8 if approved by the entire board. So the word I just got is Martha says if we approved it, we should just send it out. Anybody have any problem with that?
No,
I totally agree with you.
I have no problem.
No
I have
problem.
no problem.
Okay, very good.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for your input.
actually, I have support for it.
There you go.
You've already had support for it.
Yes.
Jesse, I got these drag races on Francis Lewis Boulevard,
Yeah, too.
and
Francis Lewis, they've got them on 164th.
Right.
even though on Francis Lewis, they put in a couple of lights north of Union Turnpike.
Right. Doesn't stop them.
If they get enough tickets,
They'll lose their car or their license, hopefully.
Hopefully before people's lives.
I don't know if you all remember a bunch of years ago, the guy up at College Point that threw oil on the street because they were drag racing and a kid got killed.
That was Francis Lewis, wasn't it?
Yes,
Mm.
it was up in 20 Avenue, somewhere around there, 22nd, 23rd.
That's a little draconian, isn't it?
I don't even think it served, I don't think it served the purpose. They're still drag racing.
Plus, they're drag racing through my neighborhoods, but they're on Park Drive East and they're in the neighborhood itself.
What's the main street there that they drag race on?
Park Drive East, also known as 135th Street.
Park Drive East runs along the park
Yeah, it runs along the Van Wyck.
and it eventually dead ends.
Yes, at my street.
it
But they
seems
don't,
that-
they don't ever come down here. They stay down by 73rd Morrow Park. That's why, Jesse, I requested some sort of stop lights or whatever down there and got the very strange reply that that's the entrance to Morrow Park. Well, why do you think I,
Well, we've requested a light there for numerous times to get the kids across.
yeah, well, nobody's been killed.
Trying to getting to the park. I was just about to tell you that the DOT has agreed to look at that.
Oh, good.
After multiple years of requesting it, they assigned it a number. So let's hope. I think it's probably going to be a stop sign, by the way. I think.
That's okay. They'll still run it, but at least
I
people,
apologize for the delay. Martha's still trying to log on. She should be there momentarily.
at least people will have the opportunity to cross the street without getting run down.
Meow.
Meow. Anyway, thanks, Jesse.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I
Well, you
can't
can
make a
log on?
motion to adjourn, can I?
No, we have business.
We just did a lot of business.
There's a lot more.
Okay, I'm covered.
Where is everybody?
I just did.
Hi,
We-
Susan.
Yes.
We've
Hi,
got
Jesse.
50 on the call already, so it's not like we have a shortage here.
Yeah, 51.
I printed the wrong
Yeah, but only 33 panelists.
agenda. Ah, excuse me, I have to go print the proper agenda.
So Steve, what possessed you to do that background?
I got tired of the park.
That's beautiful.
I think I'm going to take some Dramamine.
Gosh, I wonder if they're poisonous.
Man of wars are poisonous.
They all have poison in their tails and their stringers.
Yes,
there.
of course.
That doesn't make them any less beautiful.
Well, you know him.
It
It
is
could be
nice.
like the Japanese. We can eat them.
Okay.
Be my guest, Mark.
It
Pardon me,
was
Chinese.
sent
Oh,
2 minutes
jelly.
ago.
I've had it as
I had it too.
appetizer. Very tasty. Not
Well, if
kosher,
you'd
but
ever
very
had one
tasty.
down your bathing suit, I can tell you wouldn't like it.
I wouldn't like it. You're very right. You're very
Terrible.
right.
In the middle of the English Channel.
When I was a
Should be
kid, I went to Edgemere.
7:32.
We used to play with the jellyfish.
You man of war jellyfish.
No, not man of war jellyfish.
Don't jellyfish generally sting? And
Yes, they
have-
do.
Yeah.
They do. But the Portuguese
Yeah, I
men
don't
of
know if
war
you
are
want
the
someone else
worst.
to do the meeting.
They're
in the
deadly.
But, okay. All right, I will ask, I think, Michael is not there yet, so I have to ask,
Michael's there. Michael's
I'm
there.
here. I can't get my my phone
Yeah.
camera to work, so I'm here.
There
Okay,
you go.
good
Michael
morning.
Harris here.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Is that
Yeah,
Michael?
we hear you, Mike.
Yes, we can. I
Yeah,
can.
you're
Oh, you're also on your head. Nice.
like Fred Astaire hanging off the ceiling.
Okay.
Okay, let's get off the phone with Martha. We tried repeatedly to get on. She's having problem with her computer. So, Michael,
Yep, we
it
can get
looks like
started.
you're going to have to chair the meeting on behalf of Martha.
No problem. Let's get started.
And,
From the
can you,
ceiling.
can you be right side up?
From the ceiling.
Hi,
Yeah.
Aki.
He looks like
He
you.
was just upside down.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I'm upside down.
Between Steve and Michael, I can't look.
Yeah. All right, I'm upside down, so I'll take it like that. Okay, let's get started. Okay. We're going to start with the participation first, Marie.
Yes, Jatna, do you have names for us?
Nobody from the public, just elected official announcements of anyone that's present here.
Okay, who do we have on first from the elected officials? That Bam Bam, Flintstone, what's going on with that? Like a Hanna-Barbera thing going on.
Hey, it's Devinder from Councilmember Gdansk's office. I can go first if you want.
Please.
Great.
Hold on with our time.
Yeah, just two quick announcements. Hope everyone's doing well. First announcement is that we have the homeowners and renters benefit information session on Thursday, March 4th at 3 p.m. We will send out the flyer shortly if you don't already have it. And then again, it's going to be March 4th, 3 p.m. It's a WebEx conference. And the second one is ranked choice voting information session, which is also on Thursday, March 4th, taken at 5 p.m. via Zoom. We will send out the flyer as well. Please call to reserve your spot if you guys would like to be on this via Zoom. You can call our office at 718-468-0137. And again, I'll send both these flyers to Marie and she can share it with everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. And who is our next speaker?
Ashley Lynn from Senator Lou's office. Anything to report?
Good evening. Like Devinder said, we are also hosting the March 4th event with Department of Finance. If you guys, I think we already sent the flyer to you, Marie. If not, just let me know and send it over again. And no other announcements for me today. Thank you.
I know we have a new person from Assembly Member Weapons Office. Is that person available?
Hi, yes, that's me. My name is Rida Hossein, and I am Assemblyman David Wetbrain's new Chief of Staff. I just joined in December. It's very nice to meet you all. I'm so glad to be here tonight. And our office will be holding a mask giveaway pretty soon. The date has not yet been determined, but you know, be on the lookout for that. And other than that, I do not have any other announcements. I just wanted to introduce myself to Community Board 8.
Thank you.
Okay, and Mohammed Rahman from the Queens District Attorney's Office.
Hi, yes. Good evening, everyone. This is Mohammed from the DA's office. I hope everyone's having a good night. I don't have anything to report today, but if you guys have any questions, I'll stay for the entirety of the meeting. My phone number is 929-816-9311. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
I saw something in the paper the other day that a large number of people within the DA's office unfortunately has the COVID. Is that true?
So we've been monitoring the uptick within our office. So we've downsized to 10% capacity. So we are monitoring it. It has been an issue, but again, the DA is aware of it, and we are dealing with the situation.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have Paul Lazasket who has his hand up. I think maybe he wanted to speak as well during public participation.
Just a quick question. Is just I the new contact Rita, or would you be able to share her contact information, because we'd like to invite obviously to anyone who's new for our upcoming community dialogue meeting, which will be towards the end of March.
Okay, yes, I will put my contact information in the chat. Thank you.
I don't think I would try running. Okay.
There's no chat?
No, I
Q&A,
don't
yes.
think so.
Or,
I don't
okay, well,
yeah, I don't think there's one, but maybe if Marie could send it to the board.
Yeah, send it to the board.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll make sure that they get it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I think we have everyone from the elected officials office.
Okay,
Yes.
so let's move on to the roll call.
Taylor Jackson, Marie.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one person, Taylor Jackson.
Hi, this is Taylor Jackson from Senator
Ms. Jackson.
office. I do apologize for my camera this evening, but I just wanted to share we're continuing to do tax preparation as well as HEAP applications in our office. We are open on a remote basis if you call and make an appointment. So if anyone needs anything, please feel free to reach out to our office. Again, my name is Taylor Jackson. Thank you so much.
Roll call.
Okay. Ahmed.
Present.
Baines.
Yes.
Jatna, we have everyone's name on the side. Can you take them down so it doesn't too long?
Okay.
Anyone that's not on the list, we can
I
call
mean, I got
afterwards.
mostly everybody, so at the vote, we could tell who is and who's not.
Okay, so we can move on.
Okay.
Go ahead, Michael. Next item on the agenda, you can go ahead.
All right, so next one, the salute to the flag. Ready?
You're supposed to lead it, Michael.
I am. Pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of
America, to the republic which is there, one nation,
Nation
God,
under
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice
for all.
That was weird. Okay,
Yes.
all right. Okay, can I have approval of the minutes, please? The
Move to
January-
approve the minutes.
Approve the minutes of the January meeting.
I second.
Okay, any opposed? Not having one, the minutes have been approved. Okay, we move on to our guest speaker. And I am going to, I apologize, George. I can't see your last name clearly, but I understand you represent the Queens Chamber of Commerce, and you have a presentation for us. Is George here?
I don't see his name. George.
That's Gretch.
George. I don't see his name.
Okay. Looking at the agenda, I don't see, I see his name, but he's not here. Okay, maybe he'll come and pop in later. All right, I guess we move on to our next item, the chairman's report. Marie, can I ask you if you have Martha's report, if you could share it with us?
Her name's on the list. Her name's on the panel list.
I do not have Martha's report. However, I know that Martha wanted to have Jesse reach out to Martha on an issue and was gonna allow Jesse to speak.
Okay, Jesse?
You're muted, Jesse.
Jesse?
Maria, actually, while you were on the phone trying to work with Martha, I did the quick presentation. Everybody approved sending out the letter. I spoke to Jota. She said that if the transportation committee approved forwarding the letter, that we should just move forward with it. I presented to about 40 people who were on the call. You want me to go through it quickly? I'll do it quick. It depends on. I'll just repeat exactly what I said.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. So let me start again. We've had a series of issues of.
I'm sorry, Jesse, hold on. Could the members on the phone mute their lines just so we can hear? There's a lot of interference, audio interference.
Everybody can mute while we're not speaking. It'd be a lot easier to hear people.
We start again. We've had a series of complaints of hot rodders driving through the neighborhood, a lot of noise, not muffling their cars, speeding throughout the private streets. And Assemblywoman Millie Rozic introduced something she called the Furious Act Bill. And the bill would amend the vehicle traffic law to allow New York City to operate speed cameras at any time in a school speed zone, which the city has identified as an area of special concern for illegal speed racing. Letters of support from the local community board is requested. And I'm going to give you the recommendations that they came up with after their post-drag racing meeting. Number one, NYPD will check with its legal team, enforcing trespassing laws for specific parking lots where racers congregate. Special signage would have to be installed. Number two, this is from a broker called Federal Realty. We're looking into the possibility of installing electric power fence that will close off Fresh Meadows Shopping Center after a certain time. Three, NYPD will provide monthly statistics for a number of summonses issued for drag racing, tinted windows, speeding, and muffler noise to elected officials Millie Rozic and Barry Grudenchik. Four, all drag racing complaints should be reported to 911 if it falls under reckless endangerment, or to 311 if it's not. Email should then be sent to Officer Trotty at the NYPD precinct, Assemblywoman Rozic, and Councilman Grudenchik. We have their email addresses. And finally, NYPD is working on more checkpoints to catch violators. A letter of support of the Furious Act bill was approved by the Transportation Committee. It was actually unanimous. This letter should be sent under the auspices of CB8 if approved by the entire board. That's it. I guess I'll take a motion to.
I move to approve the letter drafted by the Transportation Committee in regard to Millie Rozic's request.
I make a second.
All opposed?
Identify the second, I think. We don't.
That was Mary
Mary
Maggio.
Maggio.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay. All in favor?
Only I have a question, if I may.
I'm sorry.
Was
discussion?
David Weprin involved in this also?
Not from what I saw.
I asked because Federal has two parking lots, one in Millie's district and one in David's district. The parking lot on the east side of 188th Street is in David's district.
I don't think this is specific to a particular area. It's going to be additional enforcement. Not only there, but you said it, Francis Lewis is an area of concern. 164th Street is an area of concern. The only thing we have is from this fellow from the realty company, Federal Realty.
Well, Federal Realty owns those properties.
And he's being
centers.
And he's being proactive in terms of trying to lock up the parking lot. Sounds like at his expense.
Great.
Can I add something? This is Alan.
Sure.
Hi. So as Mark mentioned, Federal Realty owns the parking lot. But one of the things that we were complaining about is that they were congregating in the Michael's parking lot. And as a result, we were requesting for Ron, who's the manager of the Federal Realty, to put the gates back because Jim Gallagher and some of the older civic members remembered that there used to be a gate there to lock it up after hours when the place is not being used, so they don't do donuts and congregate and all that. So
Let me read you the note from him. Federal Realty will look into the possibility of installing electric power fence that will close off Fresh Meadow Shopping Center after a certain term. This is Fresh Meadow Shopping Center. So that's what he's willing to do.
Jesse, did the realtor give you a timeline when they would get back in terms of putting up that fence or any
No,
type
I think they're investigating what the cost would be and what the repercussions would be.
Well, it's just going to be a lot. You have 5 entrances, exits, 3 on the east side and 2 on the west side.
Yeah, 3 and 2. You're right.
Evan, you're muted.
Okay.
no, not the Michael's parking lot. You're talking about that. That's Cole's parking lot. You're talking about now.
That's
Yes.
that's their parking lot.
No,
Well, they own quite a few. So the one we were talking about is the Michael's parking lot, right between the Wyndham Hotel and where the Michael's is, and the CVS and the Chase Bank.
Is that the Fresh
That's
Meadow
to
parking
the
lot?
west side. That has 2 entrances and exits. But the one on the east side is also a federal. It's under Federal Realty.
Correct.
yes,
but,
but the bill calls for areas that have been identified as problems. The other one hasn't been. I would suggest we move on. Everyone is in agreement with it. The chief of staff for David's office can speak to him about it. I'm sure he is not going to have a problem with it.
Yeah, I'll bring this up to him and reach
Federation
out
doesn't
to
have a problem
Assemblywoman
with it.
Rozik's office about this.
Right.
Okay. I agree with Kevin. We can move
Thank
on.
you.
Okay, when we
Can I
last
just
meet-
make one point?
The vote?
Can I just make?
yeah, let's
can I
have
make
the
one
vote.
Alan, you're out of.
I just wanted to make one point on this. So the unsilenced mufflers are a huge constant problem, whereas speeding is a whole different scenario. The cherry bomb mufflers, as they used to call them, are just so outrageously noisy at all different times of night and day. And that's a different kind of surveillance or inspection, because you got to catch the guy, you got to follow the guy. Whereas speed cameras and things like that are important, of course, but the noise pollution and the noise aspect of it is so disruptive. People start their cars, 7 o'clock in the morning, and they're running no mufflers, or they're having fancy exhaust systems, and they're just, houses rattle from that. Window glass rattles. So I just want to.
That's
problem
throughout
with that
the
is
deals.
The problem with that is it has to be identified by an officer, and he has to catch him in the act. So if you call him, or you take footage, or you do video, it's no good. It has to be done by a police officer. So the
No,
only
I realize that, and that's the difference of a speed camera, which kind of nails everybody, to whatever extent, and that's putting money in coffers versus real violations that are just disruptive to quiet enjoyment. And I'm just, those mufflers are getting worse and worse, and these hot rod BMWs and Mercedes and whatever else are just really disruptive to quiet areas. So I get it, Jesse. It's a great, the whole thing's really good, but I think focusing on speed cameras versus real noise and interruption is 2 different things. Just my
We're
thought.
all in agreement.
we're the same, right? We're all in the
in
same
the middle.
place.
Hello, wait a minute.
We don't
Wait a
know
minute.
how to.
We don't, I'm sorry, Jess, but we're just trying to keep on with some of these items that we have here.
Well, that's fine. I'm done, and I don't have a solution for Howie. I just.
No, it's okay. There isn't one.
Okay.
And I
All
would
right,
like to
so-
move the question.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Vote.
That was Maria. Can we move the question?
Yes.
Yes.
You don't want to do that. Moving the question requires the 60% majority and a majority vote. I would suggest that we move on without a motion.
Move on, whatever. I think
We have a
we're
motion,
beating a
actually, I
dead
have a
horse.
motion on the floor that's seconded. So we,
If there's no other discussion?
It's finished, we just have a vote. Right, as a
Okay,
matter of fact,
we were up to the vote. We
Right.
were up to the vote
So
when the
let's-
second question came in.
let's
Go ahead,
just,
Jacko.
okay, all in favor, raise your hand signifying aye.
Aye.
Hey,
Jonathan, can you see all the hands?
Yes. Anybody
Okay.
opposed?
Any opposed?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anyone opposed?
If you're on the phone, you have to speak up. We can't see your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Hear me?
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any opposition? Voice it, otherwise it's unanimous. Okay,
Okay.
it passes unanimous. Let's move on.
Thank you.
I happen to see
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I do.
Our
I see.
senator is here.
Yes. Mr. Senator, please, you have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to stop by and wish everyone a happy new year. We are working hard on this in the state senate. If you have a chance to look at the, we're doing budget hearings now of every state agency. The governor has put out his executive budget. He has announced today, just for the pandemic, that your college will be open as a vaccination site. They're looking to be able to do at least 1,000 to 3,000 people a day that they're aiming to do. So that'll give us another accessible site within a community with parking that people can go to. As you know, your college is closed for classes, so they have space there in order to do a spread out large site for vaccinations. We've also been pushing to get additional sites, working with Councilman Grodenchik and the other elected officials. We're working on that as well. I just wanted to speak on a falsehood that's going around. Paul Graziano was going around to different community boards claiming that this mayor zoning amendment is going to disempower community boards. There's nothing further from the truth. As a former land use chair of the city council and having a chance to look at the amendment over the last 2 days, because I saw some of the hysteria on the internet and at a couple of meetings, this will empower and actually give more power to community boards to make sure that they are protecting and be more aggressive about illegal home development in their areas. So I would hope that we can have an opportunity to make sure that every community board is well versed in it. And we are suggesting that the borough president has a meeting to dispel the foolishness that's been rising, because some candidates are trying to run for office and using this as a falsehood as a platform to get community involvement and people in the community to think that they are aware and doing something positive about the situation. Also, you know, we are working with people that are still having food insecurities. My office is working on that. We're doing tax prep. We're doing the HEAT and program, and we have a dental van that we're working with NYU School of Medicine, the School of Dentistry. If you're interested in any of those programs, please call my office at 718-765-6359, or reach out to me at info@leroycomrie.org. info@leroycomrie.org. And I don't see a chat here. You guys you took your chat off, so I can't put it in the chat. So, you know, but you can email me at those numbers. My liaison, my deputy chief of staff is normally on these meetings, Taylor Jackson and Andrew, no, actually it's Andrew Toronto is normally at these meetings, but today is his birthday, so we gave him the day off. So we have Taylor Jackson, my deputy chief of staff, is I think on watching the meeting and monitoring the meeting, and we'll share any other details. But I just wanted to jump on and say hello, to let you know that we are working on your behalf. I will reach out to Nili Rosick about her idea. I just heard about the parking lots and how to secure them. I think that's a good idea that we can explore. And this issue of mufflers is a real problem all over the state. So that's something we're gonna have to work on a statewide level, to look at what's happening with the noise from these mufflers, because they have gotten ridiculous. Thank you for allowing me to say a few words.
Leroy,
Hey, happy New Year, man.
thank you. You also, Leroy, the governor's opening up more sites. How is he going to get additional dosages? I mean, he can open up 50 sites, but if he doesn't have the vaccines, what good is it?
Well, they're pushing to get more rollout from the federal government. Biden has promised and has ordered more, so it's coming. It's just about right now that they're getting the stuff's distributed, the manufacturers are amping up their manufacturing abilities, and we expect to have a lot more of the vaccine on hand in the next 2 weeks.
Good. Would you let me know when they have it, because I want to get shot?
We'll shoot you soon, Mark. Call my office and we'll shoot you.
I think we're in agreement for that. Thank you, State Senator.
Yes. I see Ms. Foley's hand is up. Is that from me or has it been up? No, okay, great.
Okay. All right.
So it's good to see folks. I haven't seen people. Hopefully everybody can get the shot soon so we can come back in person. So, but the Zoom is a helpful tool because this is my 8th meeting in 2 hours. So I'm doing okay.
Okay, Mike.
Okay.
If there are no other questions, then for me, I'm going to jump off. Again, my email is info@leroycomrie.org or 718-765-6359. And I want to thank Marie Adam Ovid for everything that she's been doing and for allowing me to step into the Zoom. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, so we go back, Marie, I think we're up to your report now.
Excuse me, Marie and Michael, this is Hirsch Parek. Marie, I sent you a note. I don't know if you're looking at your email, but George Haji Constantino from the Queens Chamber of Commerce did not have the link to join the meeting. I don't know if he's been able to join since then. I just wanted to let you know that he was looking for the link.
I'm here. So well, he's here. Okay.
Oh, you're under my name, George. I sent you my link. You want to change your name?
I'll.
Okay, well, we had allocated some space for George. All right, George. We'll have you do your presentation. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I apologize for derailing this, but I appreciate you taking the time to hear me speak. Once again, my name is George Haji Constantino. I'm a business recovery specialist from the Queens Chamber of Commerce. And I'd like to tell you about this new program that we've started to provide free resources to businesses to help them deal with the pandemic. So the Queens Chamber of Commerce is collaborating with all the other chambers of commerce in New York City to create this clearinghouse of resources for businesses to help them cope with the pandemic. Especially vulnerable businesses, and we provide resources in a whole host of areas, but not limited to marketing, business strategy, financial assistance, technological support, legal counsel, and various other areas as well. And it's quite simple to sign up. You can go to the website, which is nycsmallbusinessresourcenetwork.org, which I'll share, and sign up right there. Or alternatively, you can reach out to me or one of my colleagues. And we have some ambitious goals for the next year. We plan on reaching 20,000 businesses citywide, specifically 5,000 in Queens, and over half of them should be MWBE businesses. We've already touched over 1,200 businesses, and myself and my 5 colleagues are going out on a daily basis to all corners of Queens to make sure that we can lend a hand to struggling businesses. Now, businesses can sign up, like I said, at nycsmallbusinessresourcenetwork.org. Alternatively, they can reach out to my colleague, Jesse He, at jhe@queenschamber.org or 516-669-3946. She covers the zip codes of 11365, 11366, and 11367. Alternatively, you can reach out to me if you are in 11423 or 11432. We also have colleagues who cover 11364 and 11435 as well. To reach out to me, I can be reached at ghadji@queenschamber.org, or I can be called at 516-900-6280. I'm eager to engage with as many businesses as I can, and I welcome any and all questions.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for George?
I do, Mike. It's Alan.
Alan?
How you doing? Hi, George. How are you? Thank you
evening.
thank you for doing the presentation. So I am part of the Union Turnpike Merchants Association. I myself have a small business that are struggling, and it's 1 foot out the door at this point. So I'd love to hook up with you or Jesse, because we are on Union Turnpike, from St. John's University all the way up to 190 something Street. So I'm sure a lot of businesses welcome any type of resource and any type of help we can get. So either you or Jesse, I guess we'll just get in touch with you.
Yeah, I'd be happy to speak with you, or to get you hooked up with Jesse. I believe that's Jesse's area, if I'm not mistaken.
1366, right? Yep.
We would love to help you out, Alan. What's your email?
I'll throw it on the, can I throw it in the chat?
No, we'll forward it to you,
Okay.
George, because
you.
this is live. We don't want to share people's personal
Sorry.
information. That's okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's
Maria,
for
can
all
you s-
businesses? Is that for all businesses, whether they're part of the chamber or not?
Oh yeah, for all, yes. Thank you. That's a really good question. You do not need to be a member of the chamber to get these resources.
Hi, George. Susan Cleary here.
Hi.
What do the initials NWBE represent?
Minority and Women Business Enterprise.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I should not have used jargon. I should have been more clear.
That's all right. Thanks.
George, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Do you guys also help with nonprofits or only for-profit organizations?
So unfortunately, we do not have as many resources geared toward nonprofits. Having said that, I have assisted a number of nonprofits already, and I would be happy to work with nonprofits as well.
Okay, please, thank you. Maria, if you could send them my email, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Will do.
Thank you very much.
And we'll send a copy of this presentation to each of the board members.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Okay. One last question, or we're good? Thank you again, George, for your time. Hello, did someone just say something?
Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you, George, for your presentation and for your time.
It's my pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
So we'll resume our regular itinerary. I'm sorry, Marie, we now return to you. The district manager's report.
Okay. Well, the information for my report is from my district service cabinet from last week. So it might be a little outdated, but it's still good information to have an idea of where we are. We finally had someone from the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene come to our district service cabinet last week. Due to everything going on, we haven't had anyone from the Department of Health. He did inform us as of the date of the meeting that 1,395,050 vaccines were delivered to New York City, and 837,292 were administered, of which 618,308 were first dosage, and 143,244 were second dosages. He said that there was a severe shortage of inspectors to address issues such as pest control and food vending. The inspectors have been reassigned to address COVID-19 related issues. So if you have filed complaints regarding pest control or anything to do with a food vending person, it will take a lot longer than it usually does. But they are still trying to hire a few more inspectors, even though they have limited funding. He also informed us that the Office of the Attorney General's office is taking complaints about vaccine scams. People are getting calls asking them to leave a credit card information, and a deposit to secure an appointment for the vaccine. That is a scam. They never ask for your credit card or for a deposit. The vaccine is free. Please share this information with people in the community. We also were introduced to Richard David as the new person who replaced Carol Conslato in public affairs for Con Edison. You might remember that Carol Conslato was working with Con Ed for a very long time and retired last year. And he also informed us that after major storms, such as the ones that we had, they make preparation to ensure that we do not have outages. Following the storms, some of the salt get into the manholes, and that creates issues with electricity. But it seems that everything went well. We didn't have any outages following the storm. And we also learned that we have a new commissioner for the Department of Transportation. His name is Henry Gutman. We understand that he has a law background, but at the time of the meeting, we didn't have much more information about him. We wish him well, and we hope that he'll be working well with the community boards. For the Department of Buildings, for 2020, we had 2,100 complaints for Community Board 8. No, I'm sorry, for the Queens. 250 and 200 for Community Board 8, yes. We had 250 for the month of January, and that is considered high for us. They also had 96 complaints, elevator complaints for the whole of Queens. That's considered a lot. A lot of the elevators are not working, maybe because we have a lot of people using them now that they're home. He also informed us that last year we had the pilot program where we have a half-day inspector in the Intergovernmental Affairs Office. And they still haven't made a decision as to whether or not we get to keep that half-day inspector. As you will see with our requests, we want a full-day inspector to address issues for community boards and for the elected officials. The complaints that come to the community boards in regards to the Department of Buildings are more likely to be substantiated than complaints that are just go to 311. Department of Design and Construction, due to the weather, the projects have been suspended. They will resume planting in the spring, and some locations have been removed due to certain conflicts with electrical boxes or the roots of some trees. They have an arborist who's going and checking locations, and some locations may come off the list, and they will share these locations with us. And no new information with Department of Homeland Services or with Department of Buildings as to any applications made to Department of Buildings. We checked, as of yesterday, we checked, there were no applications. And we've asked Department of Buildings if any applications are put in to let us know right away. Okay, so that ends my report. And the month of February, we have 3 birthdays. Happy birthday to Rabbi Nisanov, Kevin Forrestal, and Paul Lazaskis.
Oh, happy birthday, everyone.
I'm not counting them anymore.
All right.
That
Thank you,
doesn't mean that they go away, Kevin.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so next up on our itinerary, we have Max Reprin from the Borough President's Office.
Good evening, guys. Thank you so much for having me, Marie and everybody else. Firstly, I wanted to say that the community board application deadline is on February 19th. I also wanted to highlight on the small business grant program. These grants are for Queens small businesses in need of up to $20,000 to support operational expenses in partner with the city, Queens Chamber of Commerce, and other organizations. And you can get more information at queensbp.org/small-business-grant. Also, City Field opened up today as a mass COVID vaccination site. And some upcoming events. On tomorrow, we have a fire safety education program with the FDNY at 5:30. Anybody can RSVP at queensbp.org. And we also have a virtual job recruitment fair next week on February 18th. And anybody can look for more information on queensbp.org. And I will leave my email. I don't see a chat as well, but my email is mweprin@queensbp.org. If anyone has any questions with anything, please definitely reach out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Max. Okay. Next on our itinerary is Scott Solomon, City Planning Representative. Is he here?
Unfortunately, he is unable to attend.
All right, then. Then we moved on to our committee reports. Dr. Penny Stern has informed us that she would not be able to make it today, which is a first, and we will miss her.
Actually, I'm here.
Oh, excellent. I was preparing to
Surprise.
read
Oh, you can read them if you want.
No. I would not do justice. I would not do justice.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone has heard that New York State announced that people with certain underlying medical conditions will be able to make appointments for the COVID-19 vaccine. And beginning on February 15th, which is this coming Monday, people with a history of cancer, either currently or in remission, including 9/11 related cancers, people with chronic kidney disease and end-stage renal disease, people with lung diseases, including chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, asthma, pulmonary fibrosis, cystic fibrosis, and again, 9/11 related pulmonary diseases, people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, including Down syndrome, heart conditions, heart failure, coronary artery disease, cardiomyopathies, hypertension, which is high blood pressure, people who have not competent immune systems, people who are immunocompromised. That's people who've had transplants, whether it's bone or solid organ or blood from bone marrow, immune deficiencies, people with HIV, people who use corticosteroids and other immune weakening medications, people who are severely obese, that's with a BMI of over 40, and people who are obese, which is a BMI over 30, people who are pregnant, people who've got a history of sickle cell disease or of thalassemia, people with type 1 or 2 diabetes mellitus, people with various cerebrovascular diseases, people who've got neurologic conditions such as Alzheimer's disease or dementia, and people with liver disease. And they added the caveat that the list is subject to change as additional scientific evidence is published and as New York State obtains and analyzes additional state-specific data. So that's it for me.
Glad to hear it. Thanks, Dr. Penny.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We move now to our capital and expense budget, fiscal year 2022, from our own Mark A. Haken. Mark?
Thank you, Mike. We received responses from Office of Management and Budget to both our expense and our capital budgets. Marie and I went over their responses to us several weeks ago, I guess it was about 2 weeks ago. And we saw that the entire printout was wrong and didn't quite understand it. Marie immediately got in touch with the people there who took a look and said, holy cow, yeah, this is all wrong. They made some changes to it, but what we did do was we took these, our expense and our capital. We responded to a number of those. I believe everyone has a copy of that, of our response. Marie, does everyone have a copy of that letter?
It was
I
emailed.
have one. It's an
Was
email.
that the de Blasio letter?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the de Blasio letter. And those are our responses to the city's responses to our requests. May I have a motion, please, to send said letter?
So
I move that.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
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 Thank you so very much, Marie. Send that letter, please.
Okay. I'm not sure who made the motion and who seconded it. I heard
I did,
Kevin
Jacob.
and Susan.
Jacob,
Yeah,
I second
That's
it.
fine.
Kevin and Ja-
In the nursing program and Emery looking for.
let Kevin have it.
Kevin
Yeah,
and
fine.
Jacob. Okay, thank you.
That went well. Hello, Al.
Hello.
All right, moving now.
The next
All right,
one's a little dicey.
Some feedback. All right, we move now to the zoning committee. Discussion around Corey Johnson's planning together proposal and presentation. Steve, I'll turn that over to you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you. We had a public, not a public hearing, we had a zoning committee meeting 2 nights ago. We had a presentation from the city council, present to the city council by Ms. Annie Levers. And she came prepared with a whole bunch of PowerPoint slides. And while we did do up the minutes from that meeting, they haven't been distributed because there hasn't been final approval on it yet. But I'm just going to hit some key points that she pointed out as part of her presentation. Essentially, this is a new direction in terms of policy and planning from the city council in an attempt to help to focus many of the things that the proponents of this plan feel that the city's been deficient over the many years since it's been operating under the zoning resolution, which was passed in 1961. In this, they're going to attempt to propose that there be better planning, better oversight, better coordination, and in essence, have more input. That's the way they present it. One of the things that they also make a point of in this plan is that it does not require or make any changes to the zoning resolution. It does not require or trigger any type of rezonings. It does not propose to support or support the elimination of single-family zoning within the city of New York. And it also doesn't amend or eliminate the community board's role in future rezoning processes, all of which would remain subject to ULURP. Just as a side comment, although this is a tool for planning, none of this is itself subject to ULURP. So this is something that the city, if this would pass, would be totally out of the control of or without any input other than a general legislative process for input. So this is they're seeking to remedy what are perceived to be problems in the past, and they're going to the plan of this new proposal is to do this on a citywide basis. It involves 10-year comprehensive planning cycles in an effort to create a more cohesive planning for the city at large. It calls for the use of a city office called the Office of Long-Term Planning and Sustainability, which will make an assessment of all the different conditions throughout the city with input from the communities and city agencies. Based upon that data, they would work in partnership with the communities and other stakeholders of the community to determine long-term needs for the citywide in terms of housing, jobs, open space, schools, parks, and other critical infrastructure. There's nothing specific in terms of police or fire or sanitation, but presumably those types of infrastructure items would be taken into account. And it was a very general presentation. And I think that's one of the shortfallings, is that there wasn't anything specific that she spoke about. Although during the course of some of the questions that were raised, it did get a little bit more specific in that it would be comprised of 4 members who are appointed by the mayor, 4 members who are appointed by the city council, as well as 1 each from the borough presidents. And this is the committee, which is essentially going to be leading certain proposals on a citywide basis. We also heard from Paul Graziano, who spoke to us last time, and he said he would be here tonight. And I don't know if he's one of the people in the audience.
He is here. He's here. And
in case there were specific questions that he would be available to respond. Thank you, Marie. Paul reiterated many of the things that he spoke to us when we had him here at the general board meeting last month, in terms of, while nothing specific in the plan calls for the undermining of single-family homes. There is this focus at increasing populations and therefore the need for increased housing. And the general perception that in order to do that, you have to have larger types of building structures, apartment buildings and the like. And it's that with that type of focus that Paul was making his point in terms of the inadequacies, that this is not really a tool for planning. And he contrasted it with a plan that he proposed and was adopted over in Boonton, New Jersey, which is a much more comprehensive in terms of tourism services, preservation, and the like, as well as allowing for business and community growth. While this plan purports to address many citywide problems, one of the points that we made during the course of the meeting at the committee meeting was that we're pretty good at what we're doing here in Queens. And while there may be other areas of the city that may be deficient in terms of their planning and need some more active intervention, why are we bundling everyone together in this broad plan as opposed to attacking those problems and specifically seeking for resolutions for those areas that have been experienced those types of growth problems and dealing with their zoning issues. And she readily agreed that Queens, in contrast to many other areas of the city, has been very active and very successful in its efforts and attempts. So at the conclusion, we called for a vote. People who are in favor of this type of plan coming forth from the city council. And while many people in their comments said that there may be good aspects to it, one of the main issues was that it was very broad and it sort of bundles and throws everyone into one pot and says what's good for one area is going to wind up being good for another area. Paul, as part of his presentation, specifically was able to demonstrate where there is a potential, while it does call for community input, the community input, if it doesn't comport with the committee's recommendations in terms of where and how to locate certain areas of growth, basically the community would be, need not be followed. The community recommendations need not be followed. And instead, as long as a builder made a proposal in line with the larger planning recommendations, those builders' ideas and plans could be adopted and permitted to go forward, even though the community may not be in favor of it. So at the conclusion of our zoning committee, we had a vote as essentially who was in favor of the plan as presented, planning together. And if you voted in favor of the motion, that meant you were in favor of it. If you voted against the motion, you were not in favor of planning together. And the vote came down 9 against and none in favor of the proposal as presented. And that's my report.
Like to make a motion?
Kevin.
Yes, I'd like to move that the board opposes this plan and designate.
Kevin, just before you finish, motions are made in the positive so that we don't get confused.
Okay, you're right. I motion that we approve the plan and that the zoning committee be authorized and delegated to write a statement, either a resolution or a letter stating why that was done.
May I ask a question? This is Hirsch, or should I wait?
I second.
First, there's got to be a second to the motion.
Okay.
I second.
Jacob.
Okay, the motion has been seconded. We're up for discussion.
Susan has a question too.
Well, I think Hirsch
Yeah,
was the first one to voice.
you mentioned him first.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to maybe hear from folks that are better versed in this plan than maybe I am. We obviously heard from Mr. Graziano at our last meeting about why this is not a good plan, but we also heard from Senator Comrie just now about why this is a good plan and why that there is a greater role for the community board in this plan. And since he is a former land use chair, I do, put some value into what he said. So I'm just curious, maybe in the presentation that was given to the zoning committee or other folks that may be familiar with this plan, What is Senator Comrie referring to when he says that there is benefits to this plan for the community board?
You'd have to ask Senator Comrie, and he's not here.
Steve?
But just by the way, I'll add, while the minutes of the meeting weren't able to be distributed in time for tonight, I did request that if the PowerPoint that Ms. Levers made use of during the committee meeting, if that was something we had, that we would distribute that. And I don't know if that was distributed, but there is there was a 54-page booklet explaining, which is put out by, I believe, the speaker. I believe that was distributed as well.
Yes,
Although it wasn't in short terms, and really didn't give people enough time to review, obviously, for tonight's meeting. But the presentation was made to the executive board about 5 weeks ago. We heard it at the full community board about a month ago. We set up the committee meeting as soon as we possibly could. And it's just unfortunate that it was so close to the time that it was placed on the agenda for tonight's full public meeting of the community board. But this is the time frame that was set. So basically, that's where we are. Was there another question?
Steve?
Ty.
No, Susan.
No,
I apologize, but I called on Cy. We'll get to you next, Susan.
Yeah.
and I'd like to be after Susan.
I'd like you to comment on this. I'm a bit puzzled by the contradictory information that's been presented to us on both sides. One critical issue is, as we had been informed earlier, that the R1 and 2 zones would be changed to permit up to 3 family homes. Now, based on what the state senator had said and you had said, it seems as if it's not clear. Is there such a proposal in the city council's version?
Can we have Paul Graziano perhaps answer that?
Yeah, I think, first of all, Cy, I didn't state that the city would be converted to 2 or 3 family homes from single family homes. I was saying that the case study that they used in this report used Minneapolis as their case study, who has just eliminated single family zoning and replaced it where each of those homes can now have up to 3 units.
Right.
I never said that the city was going to do that. I said the potential for the elimination of single family zoning, both from a perspective of comprehensive planning, since they seem to think it's a good idea in the report, the authors, and the idea that areas can be upzoned every 10 years through this process would put pressure on single family and low density 2-family zoning obviously in Northeast and Southeast Queens more than anywhere else, but throughout the
Paul,
city.
so if I may, then the short answer to Cy's question is no. Planning together does not change any zoning whatsoever. Agree with that, Paul?
Not exactly.
It doesn't change any zoning. It doesn't eliminate any zoning. It may create a potential for some future changes.
What it would do, I know it's very complicated and it's not an easy framework to understand. So again, I wish it's not my framework, as you know, so I'm trying to explain it. The way I explained it on Monday is very simply that you have 3, let's say very simply, there are 3 choices that come up. One of those choices gets picked, and that area that gets picked has the potential, once it's been designated under a plan, this 10-year plan, it remains the same zoning, but it's been approved to be essentially fast-tracked to a different higher density zoning, for example. Once that happens, if that happens, a developer could come in, buy properties, and then file a ULURP to change that zoning, and there would be no ULURP in essence, because it's already been fast-tracked under that comprehensive plan. So again, I know it's complicated to understand, but it's essentially Every 10 years, an area may get designated. That designated area isn't automatically changed, but a developer could come in and change it very quickly once that's done. If that makes sense. So it could
Appreciate
be a single family zone, it could be a 2-family zone, it could be a different zone.
Okay, Si?
A quick question.
Hold on, John, Jacob, please hold it, Jacob. Susan, you were next.
And then I believe I'm after.
Yes,
Susan.
Mark, thank you.
Could I be
Once
after
you-
that?
Once you go through the 54 page,
I appreciate what Paul said, but in view of the fact that the contradiction and the dangers remain, I don't think we can find ourselves accepting such a proposal. And I'd like to hear someone say something other than that. Clearly, Paul, it seems to me someone at some point can come in, demolish a structure, and put something larger up.
Right.
Will handle 3 families. There is the potential there, as I understand it. Simply put, is that not true?
It's true if the change is made at that comprehensive planning piece. It's true.
But you also told us that we have very little to say about that comprehensive planning.
Yes, well, that's,
pardon?
That I stand by 100%, is that once.
You have to, yeah, that's very logical.
Oh, no. And I just want to say something. I mean, I'm pretty offended by what happened tonight, just personally, but this all started on Monday night after we had our meeting. Tuesday, yesterday, the speaker started attacking me personally. So I think I've hit a nerve somehow. So this just seems to be a continuation, that there's starting to be a lineup of people who are making pretty amazing statements and then leaving without really backing up anything. I'm not causing hysteria in Southeast Queens. I'm not doing anything. I'm just trying to present my interpretation of what's going on here. And it's up to you guys to decide whether my interpretation may be accurate. So that's what I'm trying to do tonight.
Kindly indulge me. Steve, would you kindly comment on the manner in which I raised the issue?
The manner in which you did what, please?
The manner in which I raised the issue. The ability to build larger to accommodate as much as 3 families.
That's even more.
In a 1 and 2 family zone.
I'm not sure what you mean. If you're asking me to,
I mean,
I'm not sure if you're asking me to comment in what way. I mean,
and
you heard from Paul on that.
What I'll say, Si, is that there's a separate bill in the Assembly and the Senate that has nothing to do with this. That bill is pushing for basement and other types of apartments in 1 and 2 family homes as additional units. It's actually a completely separate bill, and it's not connected to planning together. The big issue here with this document, it's a city document, not the state law that they're trying to push. So it's 2 separate things. I'm not in favor of the state bill, but we're not really talking about that.
No.
The bigger issue, again, I'll just say very quickly, if this comprehensive plan is adopted for each community board, and the new director of long-term planning says every community board has to absorb 5,000 people, that's the new rule. Again, I'm just making this up as a theory. Every community board has to accept X amount of people because we're saying that 500,000 people are moving into the city in the next 10 years. So you have to figure it out. So the community board comes up with one version, the borough president comes up with a version, this new steering committee comes up with one. One of those versions gets adopted, one of them. It could be the community board, it could be the BP or the other, or the one from the steering committee. If that one says, you know, that area, which is currently single family, should be upzoned to R6, it doesn't happen immediately, but any builder or developer could come in and do it. And they would just fast track the land use process to make it happen. So it's like waiting to happen, and you won't be able to really do anything because even the council members won't be able to do anything. Right now, a council member could come up and say, hey, I'm against that. I want council deference. I want my member deference. that will be removed in that situation. So again, it's such a complicated framework and frankly, unadoptable in my opinion, and massive city charter changes, but they're trying to explain it in a way that, again, I just don't think it works. So I hope that clears it up a little. It's very confusing. It's even a little confusing to me, but I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. Does that sort of answer your question, Sai?
I think we have received some misleading information.
Okay, I'd like to move on. I'd like to move on now. I'd like to move on.
A question.
I'd like to move on, and I'll recognize Susan Cleary, please.
Thank you, Steve. The 54-page planning together document is in your email, and I urge everybody to read it because the zoning committee meeting to me was devastating when Ms. Levers pointed out that it's a tiny, I think it was an R4 piece of land in one of the 5 borough pictures that she showed us could possibly be taken over for a huge complex. And right now, I think it's zoned for a single family, but I'm a little confused about that, as you are more about other things.
Thank you, Susan.
And she did not include the diagrams of the boroughs that showed all of these areas that they want to muck about with in her 54-page document.
Mark Haken, please.
Steve, 2 things. The first thing is we as community board members are here to advocate for the residents of our community board area. And I really don't feel that this plan benefits the members, the residents within Community Board 8. The second piece is when Senator Comrie, who's my senator, said that the community boards, I think he said, will get strengthened power or more power. I forgot the exact wording that he used. And he knows because he was chair of the land use committee. Having worked for the city council for 2.5 years, the land use committee is a very political spot. And the votes taken by the land use committee of the city council had a lot to do, how do I word this without insulting people?
Back scratching?
A back scratching and a funding of people's future political goals and aims. So being the chair of that committee was a perk unbelievable. And I urge all of my fellow members of this board to oppose this plan.
Thank you, Mark. Kevin Farsell?
Yes, I'd like to say a few things. One, as the city council is going out of office, they are proposing this rather massive change, and they're calling it planning together. They haven't notified the community board when they announced the introduction. They only came around and talking to various people once people are objecting. This is not planning together. They have already announced a very, very fast public hearing on February 23rd. This is very, very fast. They are trying to push this through without very much consultation. The director of the long-term planning has a huge amount of authority that is almost unprecedented since the days of Howard Moses. It's not he doesn't have as much power as Howard Moses.
Robert Moses.
Robert Moses.
Robert Moses, I'm sorry. And he doesn't have an authority, but he has a huge amount of power. It calls for a charter revision which was not adopted by the 2 charter revisions of the last year, which would have required a vote and a referendum. This one is going to go through without any voter activities. It calls for increased cast of the community boards and a lot of other people without any promise of funding. And we're doing this in a time of major fiscal crisis. There are 2, as Susan pointed out, there's a plan and there's legislation. The plan calls for a lot of things that is not explicitly stated in the resolution, but it calls and talks about a social activities, incorrectly says that a lot of the zoning, and many of it was done in Community Board 8, is based upon racial considerations and giving special considerations to groups of white populations and rich populations. That is in Paul's various diagrams or PowerPoints, that is clearly not the case. This is a Pollyannic plan that is extremely complicated, and especially those of us who have worked on the budget. That it's a complicated and convoluted way of doing things that the public will not understand and will not participate in. It is a call for a certain racial and social equity, which is a very worthwhile endeavor, but it also gives great amounts of power and leeway to developers who are funding so many of our elected officials. And I definitely urge that this is something we should not approve at this time. We should go strongly against, but we should potentially go back when we have new elected officials and say, how could we potentially improve the situation? And also that it's going to happen, but as a right may be on the agenda. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Jacob?
Yeah, I just want a clarification, which if the planning board or whatever decides to change it, let's say in Staten Island, and it gets somehow approved, one family home to do a 3-family or whatever they want to do, it would be also in all other neighborhoods. Once it's automatically done in a different neighborhood, it's then becomes citywide.
No.
Well, no. However, if you remember what she said, they also talked about introducing additional texts. So in other words, they were talking about how to update the zoning resolution, that this would also make it easier to introduce new things to the zoning resolution. She saw that as a positive. I'm not so sure about that, because to me, that's the kind of thing that something could come in that's really done in a way that there isn't much consultation. There's right now, anything that happens under ULURP happens with major consultation with the community boards and the public. It's not a perfect system. We all know this, but if they set it up at that other level, like you're saying, let's say they came up with a new zoning resolution and they said, okay, we're going to create a new zone that allows 1-family homes to be converted to 3-family homes or something like that. That could be imposed and remapped, and it could be done at a very different level. So yes, it's of concern, certainly, sir.
Before I get to you, Jesse, I just want to let everybody know. So my Zoom gallery is broken up over 2 screens. So for a moment, I want to go to my second screen because I can't see anybody in my second screen who might have been raising their hand. So I'm now, yes, I see you, Maria. I'll recognize you, please. You have to unmute your microphone. Unmute your microphone, please.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't want to add interference.
Right, and we'll come back to Jesse in a minute.
I read, not in detail, but I read through the 54-page report. And this is my comment on size question and other questions. When we listened to Annie Levers, she said that 3 plans would be presented to the city council for consideration. They would choose which plan. If none of those plans were approved, the committee, the director would choose one. Now, I just want to let everyone know, with all respect to Senator Comrie, there are 59 community boards throughout the city, and we're one of those 59. If there are 3 plans, the chances are that our small community board will be absorbed into one of those major plans, either through the borough president's choice, because the borough presidents will be looking at their community boards,
right,
or not. Now, I'm not saying this is all speculation, but based on what's in that report, technically they can turn around and say, and she has said, that what the purpose is is to look at areas that have transportation, that are not in low-lying areas for flooding and blah, 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 that have good transportation access and are underzoned
Minimal displacement.
Right.
for community displacements for review. So if we're included in one of those plans because they say that they're going to choose that, then size area, which is near Jamaica, near the subways, medium density, is a very good
Candidate.
chance of being selected
Absolutely.
for upzoning. And that's the problem. Right now, we can fight, as we know, we're fighting with Cy with the homeless shelter that's trying to get in there. We will lose all the ability to do that.
Right.
Because it does not go to ULURP anymore. If they're in that master plan and the plan says that they're going to do X, any developer can come in and say, this is what I plan to do. If it meets the skeleton of the plan, then they said, and that also bothers me, that it will be a watered down environmental impact study. And if that's okay, then the developer will be allowed to develop. She also said that infrastructure changes will not necessarily be done at the same time that any upzoning is done. So that's one of the big things we fight all the time, is that we don't want to increase density without increasing infrastructure. And it's not going to go hand in hand. And I think when Paul showed us that other community, what he was trying to show us was that they planned across the board. They weren't to do something to build without putting the infrastructure behind it. And that's not in this plan. So I understand what the senator was saying, that he supports the plan, but I think he's misguided. And I doubt that he really looked at the implications for community boards. And as I said that night to Annie, she said it's disparate among all the community boards in the city. And my thing was, why aren't we being held as a model? Why are we being told we need to conform? If other community boards didn't see fit to rezone, upzone, downzone, or change, that's up to them and their community boards. We're not telling them what to do. We don't want people telling us what to do. We're happy with what we have. And that, if that explains things a little easier, I hope it does. And as Susan said, we've got the report, and I really recommend people read it because they're fast tracking this, and we really need to be on top of it to make an impact and to change minds. So I'm opposed, and I hope all the members of the board vote with me.
Thank you, Maria. Jesse, you had want to make some comments?
Yes, I'd like to piggyback on what Maria's saying. Theoretically, if this proposal is approved, a developer can come in to a one-family area that's zoned, acquire a piece of property, and then start developing 3 stories. And that can change the whole texture of the neighborhood. If I have that wrong, please explain it to me, because that's what I'm
Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
Just very quickly. It could be 3 stories, it could be 6 stories, it could be 10 stories.
Right.
As long as the comprehensive plan says, hey, these 10 blocks, we're designating it. It's currently R2, but we're going to say that these 10 blocks, yeah, that area can go to R6. Then the builder comes in and all he has to do is file the paperwork, and it's not that it's already approved. It's just fast track, streamlined.
Yep.
No ULURP. And then they change the zoning for that piece of it. Then another developer comes in. He buys up another 7 properties and he says, I want this half block done. And it becomes, talk about spot zoning. It becomes a really messy situation.
Yep.
Steve? Yeah, I do recognize you, Cy, but just give me 1 minute because I want to jump over to the other gallery just in case there's anybody else.
I hope that explained it better, Jesse. Sorry.
We have Paul, Howard, and Mary. Paul, Howard, and Mary have their hands raised.
Okay. Paul Lazaskis, I'm assuming you're talking about?
Yes.
Is he on a phone?
Yeah, the other Paul.
Oh, there he is. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. No, I mean, just hearing all of this, I kind of just, in my mind, I'm thinking like, what's the end game, if you will? Only in the sense of, who here thinks that rezoning an area with single family homes to multi-family buildings is in the best nature of anybody? I mean, that just kind of doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And, it kind of just to add to that also, obviously with a lot of the city council members now going out in the next year or so, and then now them kind of pointing up to a lot of these developers who I think at times they're at odds with, and now they almost seem to be almost, I'm not going to say in cahoots in that sense, I don't want to put it out there in that way, but kind of working together to have these rezoning, measures go in. And it just doesn't make any sense. I think it's just awful because it doesn't make any sense. It's not in anyone's benefit. There's no infrastructure, if you're looking to do this type of redevelopment, what about schools, policing, fire, et cetera. It just doesn't make any sense. And I just think it's just awfully terrible. And, I think it's a lot of it just stinks politically, in my opinion. So I just kind of wanted to put it out there that it's just, I don't see how anybody can be in favor of taking single family units and redeveloping and crowding an area or areas that don't have the infrastructure to handle this influx. I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
Marie, did you say Howard? Was that Howard Freed?
Yes.
Howard Freed, yep.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot. Just a real quick point, because I've been going back and forth whether I even bothered to say something, but there's nothing I've heard tonight, and it's come from every different direction, that doesn't make clear just what a horrendous plan this is. But what echoes in my mind is what Paul presented a couple of weeks ago when he mentioned there were only a couple of community board in the city that have that cluster of R1, R2 single family homes. And because of that, it's like we're the low-lying fruit, and they're going to come in and grab us as soon as the opportunity holds. So I mean, I think this is just so dangerous at every level, and is not being looked at fairly or from an understanding of what a residential community means. And I think it's just bad. And I think we have to really take whatever steps we can to push against it. Just because it doesn't make any sense to go ahead and take a residential neighborhood of single family homes and literally be in a situation where you could destroy it and change its complete context in a matter of no time. And again, it sounds like we're one of the communities that are going to be earmarked as a potential because there are not that many of us left in the city. So that's my thought. I agree with what everybody said tonight. And I think we really have to take as strong a position as we can against it to push back until the next administration comes in, because this is just an end game that doesn't sound very good.
Paul, if you could just hold your comment for a moment.
Okay.
I just want to ask, Marie, was the other person who from the board, was it Mary Maggio?
Yeah, it was Howard Freed and Mary Maggio, and now Ed Chung.
All right, so Mary, would you please?
I agree with everybody else, and I think we have to take heed at what happened this year in Manhattan. A pandemic struck and people didn't want to live in apartment buildings. They didn't want to share the same elevator, et cetera, et cetera. So just based on what an outside event did to people of Manhattan, I think like to the tune of 500,000 people practically fled Manhattan because of congestion and overcrowding. We should just learn from last year's history. We don't have to go beyond that. So I'm definitely with the rest of everybody. It's a stupid idea.
And Ed Chung, please. Ed, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. When I moved into Jamaica Estates, prior to that, I lived in a brownstone in Brooklyn, and everybody lives on top of each other. I want to have open space. That's why I came to Jamaica Estates. There's mostly single-family homes. And what Paul mentioned, Graziano mentioned that back 1960s, Robert Moses, they were planning to have New York City would grow from 8 million people to 20 million people. Well, according to Paul, that has not grown, it has reduced like 400,000. So what's this thing about rezoning and all that stuff? That's very confusing. And the way I look at it, developers like to see open land, just build build up. So I think, but this Maggio says, because of the epidemic we had so far, people don't want to live together anymore. People moving out to the suburbs. So why go to this whole exercise? I think it's just going to help the developers. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Right.
Any additional comments on the motion?
Yeah.
Mark, you're muted. Okay, while you're doing that, I'll ask Seymour, you have some final words?
Yeah. I think this has been a very sharp and very enlightening discussion. The path is clear. I don't know if this requires an amendment to the motion on the floor. I don't think it's settled merely for a letter of opposition. I would suggest that we have prepared a powerful resolution that is along the path of Kevin's analysis, which I think was rather sharp. So, as I say, if it requires an amendment, I make that amendment, that there be a resolution that reflects the sharp criticisms that we have collectively made here tonight.
I second it.
Mark?
Second.
I'm the person who made the resolution. The resolution called for a resolution or a letter. I am perfectly happy with a letter if that is the desire of the committee that's going to write it.
May I just add that there is a hearing on February 23rd. I
Right.
just keep that in mind as you decide.
Yeah, so we have to get it done fast.
Yeah, I think
tonight.
Paul has provided us with a sample resolution for one of our neighboring community boards.
And sorry, if I can just say, CB11 just sent out their letter today, and I forwarded it to Marie and Martha. So you can look at Board 13's draft, and you can look at Board 11, and maybe that'll give you some. You might want to do a mix of the two, or whatever you're going to do, but it'll give you some ideas, I think.
Great,
yes.
Thank you.
Dave,
Yes, Mark.
I'm unmuted.
I don't know.
Members of our board, if you go to Midland Parkway, beginning at Hillside Avenue, and start walking north, those were all one-family homes. If you go up one block on the west side, my friend's mother, she was a doctor, had a huge house on that corner. And all of the rest of the houses going north on that side of Midland Parkway were single-family homes. Some developers went and looked at maps and said, wow, this is not zoned for one-family homes. These are zoned for larger density. Take a ride down Midland Parkway, beginning at Hillside Avenue, and see what the west side looks like. Attached house, attached house, attached house, attached house, 2-3 floors high. Think of that next door to you. And those are small compared to certain things that Paul said, where it's R6 or R7. And I live in an apartment building. Okay, but I'm in a very small corner. All behind me are private homes, and I'm very pleased about it. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Sorry, Steve, one last comment, very
Please,
quick
Paul.
comment. We're talking about single family versus 4 stories or 6 stories. The people on the Upper East Side, they're worried that their mid blocks, which are zoned for 75-foot height limits, are going to be like their avenues, which are zoned for 50-story height limits. So it's all a matter of scale and perspective, right? The people on the upper, they have the same issue we do. It's just we have a smaller scale than they do. So I just want to lay that out there that, we think a certain way, but they have the same concerns. So I
Right.
just want to throw that out there for you. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much.
As an example is that before we had our zoning committee meeting, Annie was meeting with Community Board 1, who was very upset about this also, for different reasons, but very upset.
Roll call.
Steve, this is Hirsch. I just have one final comment. as
Oh,
well.
sure.
I apologize to everybody. I have a couple of observations that I've been hearing throughout this discussion, and I appreciate all of my neighbors' insights into this. A couple of things. One is, I think I would say just out the outset, after hearing all this discussion, I am opposed to this plan. I don't think it makes sense to have a citywide plan for different communities. Queens, at the end of the day, is a borough of neighborhoods, and each neighborhood is different from other neighborhoods, and we should not be changing the character of neighborhoods to fit other parts of the borough or other parts of the city. I do want to say, though, while I appreciate Mr. Graziano's explanation of this or his views on this, it is unfortunate that all of the sort of outside commentary that we've heard during this meeting has been against this plan, as opposed to anyone that can provide some sort of balanced discussion, which I think may have been helpful, but again, that does not change my view on this. So I just want to say thank you to Paul for his insight, but I do wish that the city or someone else had provided someone to the full board. I apologize, I couldn't make it to the zoning meeting, but was able to sort of provide a balanced discussion and or provide the plan in a more timely way that allows us the opportunity to review it and at least understand it in a better way. So thank you.
Yeah, but as you said, Hirsch, last meeting 2 nights ago was when we had the representative from the city council president, who's the main proponent of this plan, come and speak to us at length about it, the proposal.
That
Nonetheless, my final closing comments are basically, while clearly we are not in a perfect world today, if anybody thinks that by attempting to get some type of coordination in a city of this size and that one plan is going to fit everyone, you're just, it's a pipe dream. So we need to have much more focused zoning. We need to have better budget coordination, better planning. Those things are clear, but this is not the way to get there. That being the case, now I would ask for a roll call vote.
What
on
are
the
we
motion.
voting on, Steve?
The motion, as I believe, was made by Kevin, and the modification request.
Are we
came-
voting on the letter? Are we voting on a resolution?
Well, I think the crux is the motion is in the positive, that if you are in favor of planning together, you vote yes on the motion, that we are supporting this, and that in any event, any final resolution on this motion be in a wherefore, therefore.
Why, Steve, why is that the motion as opposed to the motion to endorse or support, or stronger words, the letter that was put together by the zoning committee opposing this plan? Why is that not the
Because
motion?
it's in the positive.
Our zoning committee didn't put anything together. What we're talking about is a resolution passed by Board 11 and Board 13, which we may borrow from their language in order to have a final resolution on this. But for the purposes of tonight's meeting in front of the full board, it's either to express a positive recommendation with regard to planning together, or a negative recommendation with regard to planning together. If it does result in the negative by voting down the resolution, we will then have a document which we will generate, and it can be circulated before it gets issued, which will encompass many of the comments that were made tonight as the basis for the outcome of the vote.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay,
that's clear.
okay,
Thank
let's vote.
I have a share to go to. Let's go.
Ahmed? Baines?
Jagir?
Baines?
Jagir, you're muted. I can't hear
Unmute
you.
Jagir.
Press the space bar.
Press your space bar.
To temporarily unmute, you just have to press down on the space bar. There you go.
Jackie,
He's there.
he
No,
left?
no,
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Bennett Idels? Brown?
No.
Block?
no,
Sean?
No,
Cleary? Cohen the second? I saw him earlier. Davidoff? Dinocentis?
No,
Eisenstein?
no,
Fisher?
Florence?
Fisher? Foley, Forrestal,
Jana,
Freed.
Foley
No.
sent me a text, no.
Okay.
Mhm.
Freed,
Reed was no.
Fulton, Gallagher Jr.,
No.
Gebhardt, Gennaro, Glickman, Haken,
No.
Hannibal, Hirsch,
No.
Konigsberg, Lasaskis, Lister, Mayers,
No.
Maggio, Magri, Martin, Mordekaev,
No.
Nath,
Abstain.
You have a financial interest in this, or otherwise your assumption will be a no vote?
Because I love my friend Stephen Ross, who can develop in our community.
You have a financial stake.
Do I have a financial? No, I mean,
Then you should vote either yes or no, please.
quite frankly, I really need to know more of this because, last night, 2 nights ago, I voted no on this. But I think it begs some question to understand and
It's
read.
either a yes or a no vote, Dilip.
Okay, well, I'm abstain right now.
Then it's a no vote. Thank you.
It's a
Move
no
on.
vote, yeah.
Next.
Nisanov, Nisanov,
Yes, I vote against.
Thank you.
Ong,
No.
Asharov,
No.
Correct,
No.
Pellman, Peterson, Rahman,
No.
Miss Peterson?
Ray, Rosenbaum,
No.
Swords,
No.
Sherman, Singh,
Shaking his head no.
No.
Dr. Stern,
No.
Taylor, Tohin,
No.
Weinberg,
No.
Willingham,
No.
all against.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mike, meeting's yours.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody.
All right.
What was the vote?
That was
Unanimous.
He's counting.
38 no's.
8 no. Okay. All right, we reached that point of our meeting. Do I have a
May I
motion?
move to adjourn?
Second.
Okay.
Before we adjourn, Mike,
Yes.
do we know who's going to put together the resolution?
No, but I'm thinking to go like after school.
Steve, is that something that you and we work on, or do you need further input from us?
I'm sorry, there's too much background noise. I couldn't hear it.
Please mute yourself if you're not speaking.
Marie, is that something you and Steve will work on, using the information and leveraging the information from Community Board 11 and 13?
If that's what you want, okay?
Okay. Perfect.
I spoke with friends on board 13. They're going to be very happy.
Who's doing it?
I'm supposed to work with Steve on that.
We can talk about it offline, Marie.
Okay.
That the information's okay. All right.
Okay.
And Maria, I'll get back to you once we have a little more clarity.
Okay, I just don't want it to, with the thing coming up, with the presentation coming up February 23rd, I just don't want it to sit around. So, as long as it's being handled, I'm happy.
We need to get an original draft and then get it to the zoning committee and beyond.
There's a motion on the floor.
Okay, it was second.
Just a second. Doesn't need one.
Motions for adjournment don't require a second,
That's what I just said.
Then
and
good
they're
night.
non-debatable.
I didn't know.
It requires a vote, however.
Does require a vote, either up or down.
Aye, yes.
Aye.
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 Right. Okay, good night.
One more.
Good night,
Good
all,
night.
and good
Night,
night,
everybody.
Mr.
Night.
Palisade.